Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. My name is Rochelle Slay, or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. So come on in, y'all. We're going to have a Slay amazing conversation tonight because you know how I do. I search high and I search low. But when I know someone needs to be on this show, I just step to them and ask them, and usually it's a yes. And so tonight, y'all, you are going to be blessed. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now. Blessed to have someone come in here and just talk some things that we already probably know, but in a different way. All right, because I like the different spins on how we can present ourselves. And so on the Slay to Success show, we start from the word slay. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym, which is a visible leadership framework for any woman or man, if you're courageous enough to want to partner with me, where we walk through how you show yourself and have that presence that everyone's talking about. And now you want in on it, all right? Because you have goals, you have dreams, you have aspirations that you're trying to get after, and you want to do it quicker, faster, and more better than anyone else, all right? And so how you set yourself apart in high visibility spaces. So we're at strategic identity, leadership presence, our aesthetic authority, and your narrative power. And when they are all aligned, you're going to get there. And when I see you, I know you're slaying it, all the things. Okay. So, y'all, as we are in here, please tell us where you are streaming in from. All right. Give us your name, maybe from where you're coming in from, so that way we can include you in this conversation that we're going to have tonight. So who do I have with us tonight, y'all? Well, I have a queen, okay? Her name is Ayisha Thompson-Olajide, and she's going to correct me on the last name, all right? So, Ayisha, when you come on a stage, I want you to pronounce your last name so that way we can get it right, queen, okay? She is known as the Creatives Brand Coach, and she is the founder of Envision Creative Art, where she helps ambitious entrepreneurs and creatives build powerful personal brands and thriving businesses. As seasoned brand strategist, Ayisha has guided hundreds of brands in refining their vision, defining their messaging, and creating strategies that drive consistent growth. Her expertise in personal branding, creative entrepreneurship, and marketing has made her a sought-after thought leader and consultant for creatives, coaches, and small business owners. As a result of working with Ayisha, coaches, creatives, and consultants turn passion into profit, confidently communicate their value, and position themselves as authorities in their industry. Her mission is to support ambitious leaders who are ready to build six-figure and beyond brands that create lasting impact, increase visibility, and elevate their influence. Y'all, she's speaking all of my language, so that's why we had to have her tonight on the show. Ayisha, how you doing, queen?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Slay Queen. I appreciate it.
I already knew from when we met at the event, and y'all, if you're out here networking, you meet some very interesting and beautiful people. And so when I saw you walking, you had a pink coat on. First of all, I was like, well, she got the pink coat on, so that's already a sign, right? And then we started talking, and you pulled out your book, and then I was like, okay, hold up. Hold up, Ayisha. We're going to have to talk this a little bit further on the show. So I am so thankful for your yes and that you are here with us tonight. And please pronounce your last name so that way I can get that right.
Sure. My name is Ayisha Thompson-Olajide.
Olajide.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to get it right. Olajide. All right. And so what's the background?
Yeah, so my husband is Nigerian, hence the Olajide. My background is I'm from Jamaica. My mom is Jamaican born.
Oh, wow. So I'm sure the cultural blending in the family makes it to be very spicy. I'll just say spicy.
Oh, yes. A very well seasoned spicy pot over here.
Oh my gosh. Well, please let the audience know a little bit about yourself. And then, of course, we're just going to get right on into the conversation.
Sure. So I'm Ayisha Thompson-Olajide. I'm a brand strategist, and I also like to be called the creatives coach. And I've been doing this since 2017. I started in the field of just marketing, doing that, working in just working in corporate America, excuse me, working in corporate America, and got to a point where it just wasn't fulfilling because I was
Mm.
behind the scenes, and especially working in the industry where I was, which was accounting, it wasn't much exciting going on. And I got my first, let me say, I dipped my toe for the first time in like just really community engagement and inspiring others when I had the opportunity to speak to young students. There was a program called Rosie the Lawyer at the time, and they were looking for someone to come and speak to these young female aspiring attorneys who were like in middle school and high school about, you know, professional development, etiquette, things of that nature. And I really enjoyed it. So in me wanting to do that more and wanting to actually be in the community and, you know, helping others fulfill their passions or whatever the case may be, and then also to me realizing that working in corporate America, I got tired of asking for permission. And
Mm.
yeah, I did, because
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, coming from a different generation where we were taught that, okay, you graduate from school, you go to college, and the
Yeah.
big dream is to get a job, get a good
Yeah.
job, right? There was nothing beyond that. It was just get a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And you pretty much, I remember it would be like anytime it was close to annual review, I'm sitting there calculating the numbers. Okay, well, if I ask for this amount of raise, then maybe, you know, this is going to be how much the paycheck is going to look like doing all these calculations to then try to
Oh.
prove to someone that I was worth it, right? And then on
Uh-huh.
top of that, feeling like in addition to having to prove to someone else that I was worth the extra money, then turn around and having to ask their permission, can I take some time off to go to a field trip for my kids? Or, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? About having to feeling bad about having to take time off to be with my children. Like it was just so much. So I know I said a lot, but
No, you did say a lot. You said the right things, Queen, because this is the space to be sharing all of that. All right. It is a lot. I mean, you're pretty much sacrificing the way that you feel in the moment, your talents, your gifts, your passions are like kind of put to the side. Not to say that it's a right or wrong thing, but for you, you didn't feel like that, and you didn't like that feeling. You didn't want to be asking permission, showing people your value. This is how much I'm worth, so my paycheck. I mean, that language that we continue to hear, people are getting tired of it. All right, people are so tired of having to exert this energy, because it's a different type of energy when you are just constantly trying to say, okay, pick me, like, I'm worth it, so I feel you on that. And then asking to take time off for your children's, events or activities. It's just hard. It's a very hard thing. And we weren't taught that, Queen. I'm of the same, we weren't taught anything beyond the job. Okay, get the job, get the
right.
career, have step of stable, stability. So that way you always have money coming in.
Mhm.
So you said you were in corporate and in accounting. And so at what point did you decide that you wanted to transition out of that and go into the branding space, if you will? What was the journey?
Hmm. Yeah. So the transition or the journey, I've always worked in marketing. In fact, to kind of backtrack a little bit, I started my career working in the fashion industry. I went to
Yes.
FIT. Yeah, I got my associates at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York and started working on Fashion Avenue for a luxury cashmere designer. And in fact, Oh yes, and this is perfect because I'm The Devil Wears Prada is recently out. But
That's right.
yeah. So my first job, I worked for a luxury cashmere designer, and I would describe my supervisor as Miranda. If anyone who's watched the movie, they know exactly
Oh,
who Miranda is.
yeah.
Um, Very like, she was very diva-ish, would come in with her designer purse, throw it on the counter, and here I am, young, fresh out of school. And I remember that first day where I encountered Miranda. She just kind of looked at me. There was no introduction, like, hi, welcome. None of that. It was like, you show me what you know. Right. Yeah, like show me what you know. So she called me over to her computer, and a part of my role was that I was supposed to be able to know how to use Adobe Photoshop for the graphic designers or creatives, right? Now,
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell you what year this is and tell my age, but I wasn't that quite savvy as yet with Photoshop because in school we learned Quark Express. So needless to say, I'm fumbling between nerves and just really not knowing. I'm fumbling, trying to pick something on the screen, the press, and she got so impatient with me in less than 5 minutes, and she was like, and like just kind of, she knows
Oh.
nothing, right? But then, but it gets better. So then I remember, I'll never forget this moment. She slammed her hands on the marble desk and got up, and it was like it's high rise ceiling to floor glass windows. We're on like the 20th floor, and she, storms down in her stiletto heels, screaming at the top of her lungs. She knows nothing. She does not deserve to be here. She's talking about me, right? And I'm laughing now,
Wow.
but in that moment, I was so embarrassed. I felt so broken because this was my first experience in corporate America. I think at the time where I was 20, just turned 20 years old. And then in addition to that, I was the only person of color working in the office and the only Black female. So hearing those words from someone who did not look like me, especially when I already second guess if I really deserved to be there,
Right.
it was hard. But
Mm.
I was determined to prove her wrong. So I remember going to Barnes and Nobles and getting Photoshop for dummies and going home and practicing. And she would just randomly test me or give me assignments, and I would get them because I was ready. She got
Right.
me the first time, but then I learned to stay
That's
ready.
right. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what happened is this was around the time where we had the Wall Street crash. So there was a lot of changes
Mm.
going on with, executives and things of that nature at the time. And, long story short, by just proving myself, being dedicated, and not only her watching me, but also the vice president of the design firm watching me, things changed as far as leadership roles. And I was actually given the role of chief marketing executive officer.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so I actually took her position and I was 22. And
Okay.
yeah, so that kind of sparked a little fire. And okay, that was my entryway into design, let me say. And then fast forward, still working in marketing, moving to Maryland, and there wasn't a big fashion industry at the time. So moving to Maryland and then working in corporate behind the scenes in marketing, the transitional moment. I know I took a while to get there, but just
No,
wanted
no,
to get
that's
some
perfect.
context. Yeah. The transitional moment was I was working at an accounting firm as the marketing director. And again, no one there looked like me. Again, I was in another position where I was the only African American female. I don't even think, maybe there was one other African American in the firm. The firm had about 50 people. And there was this particular guy. And he had been well vested with the firm for quite some time, over 10 years, and on his way to become partner.
Mm.
And he was on this health journey, and out of nowhere, he had a heart attack and died.
What?
Yeah. And I remember because again, he was like a big deal in the firm, leading to
Yeah.
partner, played a very instrumental role in decision making, a thought leader, things of that nature. And I remember the first day was shock for everyone. And day two, all the other leaders just started scrambling and were like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Who's going to replace him? And who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And I remember thinking in that moment, can you imagine, like, what is his wife going through? What are his children dealing with? This wasn't planned. This wasn't prepared. Some of us, when we lose a loved one, we have time to prepare for that. But then some of us, our loved ones are taken away from us suddenly. And this was the situation. And like that, they shifted, and it was just like, okay, how can we now move on? Not even really taking the time to mourn or acknowledge his presence. And I'm like, well, if they did that to this person who was so vested and with them for over 10 years, what are they gonna do to me?
That's right.
What are they gonna do to me?
Listen, that's when the light bulbs start coming on. You're
that's
like,
where it was like, warning. Like, yeah,
but you know what? You acknowledge that. Because a lot of people won't acknowledge that, right, in that moment. So you acknowledge that, and that's when you decided, I need to do some things differently? Or, was it a little bit more of discovery for you?
It was, I have to do things differently. And what was just a side hustle, because at that point I was just doing design work for friends and family. I was like, oh no, I need to take this serious. I need to have a plan B, and I need to find something that I can do that will allow me to spend more time with my babies, who would be the ones suffering if something were to happen to me, God forbid. And it just started slowly. I just, put myself out there, attended more networking events representing me, even at that time. And I talk about this in my book, not even quite knowing how to pitch myself. Like, I do a little bit of this, I do a little bit of that, some of this, but I just knew I had to do something. And though it took a while for me to really hone in on, like, okay, this is it, as far as branding, personal branding, and what I was doing. But let me say this, it took some time for me to really narrow in on personal branding, because I had to go through it and do the work and get the feedback, and then it kind of all aligned in this particular lane, right? And I say that I'm transparent in that, because sometimes we feel like we got to have it all figured out, and
it's not true. And I'm with you 100% on that. It's not where you start from, because we do have these ideas and we want to bring that to fruition. But along the way, you may get indication, hey, I'm more, savvy in this particular area, or, I enjoy this industry a lot more than this, so, and I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. When you are seeking a way to, solve a problem, there are many ways to solve a problem, but what is the one that is most fitting to you and that is aligned with you, and that will get the results that the people that are assigned to you will get, because everybody is different. So I absolutely agree with you too, because I think a lot of people just kind of like put themselves into one space or one area, and then they say, this is it. And then they don't find any pleasure, enjoyment, any kind of freedom, flexibility in that. And, it's so I just absolutely love the story. I mean, because it could happen to anyone. This is something that could be a spark for anyone who may be going through a transition right now, and they're maybe a little bit hesitant or scared to just kind of go in and dive and take a risk. Hey Chevy, good evening, Queen. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here with us live. You're joining from Alabama. Yes, Queen. On the LinkedIn side, she's holding it down, and she is a regular. So I am so happy that you're here with us. So just go ahead and put in a comment or chime in if you think there's something that you wanted to add to the conversation, because we're talking all the things personal brand. And Queen, this is going to be juicy, because me and Ayisha are going to have a good time talking to you. Some of y'all are going to get tired of us and sick of us. So it's going to be what it is. So you found a way to your way to personal branding. So tell me kind of the beginning journeys, and that way we can, start to see how it has evolved,
Mhm.
because I know that this space that we're in, it could sound a little crazy to some people, and some people are still confused about what it is exactly and what we're doing with that. So,
Mhm.
how did you get into the personal branding aspect?
Sure. So I started initially just doing design. So what that looked like is, hey, I'm working with small businesses. I can design your business card. I can design your logo and things of that nature. And then we would get on calls and people would share with me their ideas or their concepts, but then they wouldn't have a solid strategy behind it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of times it would be more so, oh, well, I'm pretty good at this, so I think I'm just want to try this, but they wanted something that was pretty, but they didn't understand how all the machines work behind the scenes to make sure that you're not only creating something that's beautiful, but you're going to create something that works and that's appealing to someone. And how that transition from just design and strategy to branding for me is that I started who aligned with me were mostly people who had like a passion or a side hustle, other professionals, executives, and they were looking to build awareness about who they were outside of that 9 to 5. And that's where we were able to say, okay, this is what you're passionate about. This is what you're good at. You mentioned that, like really finding your lane about what works for you. Now let's take that and build your personal brand.
Yeah,
Build out your various assets, design assets, build out your strategy, find your audience, and figure out the best messaging to communicate with them. So when it comes to personal branding, how I show up and play, let me say, is more so from a design and strategy standpoint, right? Really
yeah,
helping taking an idea and building out the game plan to monetize it.
yeah. I think that, and I'll say, I guess I am just as guilty as anyone else when you're starting out with it. When I thought of branding, right? I thought of the logos, the website, those types of pieces. But then at the end of the day, who is designing these things, right? Who is the person who's going to be in front of the business instead of being behind the business? And that's kind of how I, stepped forward and said, I am a brand. Okay. I know I'm a brand. I know that I'm an experience. How do I want other people to experience me? So it's really doing that deep dive. And Queen, this is not just this superficial work that we're doing. This is like inner work that a lot of people refuse to do because it does bring up emotions. It does bring up, kind of like, wow, I have no idea like who I am at the end of the day, because we get these titles, we get these, these jobs, we get these identifiers, right? These are
Mhm.
identifiers that other people are giving us, but what are we building for ourselves,
Right,
right? So
right.
Chevy says, love that, building a personal brand that can be monetized, you know. So, in your work now as in the personal branding space, so what are some of the things that people come to you that are like some common discussion points? Maybe they want to, work with you or partner with you, collaborate, whatnot. And what are they saying? Because I have a lot of things that people come to me about, and so we'll just kind of like exchange some of the comments that we're hearing or some of the language that people are saying.
Sure. So when people come to me, something that they're always saying is, "Oh, well, I'm just trying to find a way to earn extra income, or I'm trying to find a way to get my name out there," right?
Hmm.
Um and I'm pausing because oftentimes they come with an idea. And it's the feedback is, oh, well, my friends or my girlfriends told me I'm really good at this, so I should move, so I should pursue it.
Mm.
But then they come in, usually they come in the door of wanting design work, but then we have a conversation, and they realize they don't have the systems and structures in place. And
Yeah.
that's where we then talk about actual building out the game plan and the strategy. Because think about it, a lot of times when people they decided to start a brand, whether they're the face of the, most of the times who I'm working with are coaches, creators, and consultants. So they're the face
Right.
to some aspect of the brand, right? So
Yep.
they come, oh, well, I have an IG page. I'm not really active on it. I just kind of started it and I'm not posting consistently. So the first thing we would definitely talk about is what does your brand identity look like? And your
Mm-hmm.
identity are those nice bells and whistles. The logo, do you have a website? If you don't, maybe you need a website, but what you trying to do with the website? Because when people come, they're usually like, oh, I just want a website. But what's the goal? Is it to give information? Is it to, convert them or to convince them to purchase something, book a meeting, watch you know what I mean? Like having a very clear, specific goal of what you're trying to achieve, not only with your website, but even starting that with social media. So
Yeah.
asking questions like that, because when people think of design, they're like, oh, I just know I need one, but they're not quite sure how it really needs to align with their overall goal that they have. So we
Right.
start there. And then oftentimes, people, me too, in the beginning, oftentimes people think social media is a beyond and all. And I had to pause because I know it's a real sensitive topic when it
You
comes to
said
the
the be
social media.
all the
I
end
had
all.
to take a moment.
Let me pause just a bit before, because you might hurt somebody out here. So, uh,
Sorry.
but it's true.
Here's the thing with social media. It's a great way to build awareness. Some brands they're very successful, due to social media. But my thing is, don't let the conversation stop there. Because at any moment, if you don't have a whole system in place, like an email list, you're communicating with them outside of social media, any moment TikTok want to shut down, Instagram want to, whatever happens, or someone gets your account or hack, you have no control. You don't control the conversation.
That's
So
right.
so I'm really big on using social media as a tool to grow awareness, to get exposure. If it generates sales, even better, but leading them somewhere. And that's where having that website would come into play.
Yeah.
So again, to kind of go back, because I went down a trail with that, but to answer your question, what people typically come to me with is, I have an idea, I have a passion, this is what I want to do, and I need help, building it out. Then we have a conversation about systems and structures, because some people are great at selling, but then guess what? You get people to say yes, and then it goes cricket silent, right? Because you don't have the automations in place. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And if you're
It's so
selling
true.
something at $500, they want to know that you're still engaged, not that you made the sale and you're like, all right, well,
Yeah.
right.
you know, you know, it's so exciting. And so I know the feeling, right? Like it's so exciting to have an idea and you just want to get out there and just do your thing, right? And not really even looking at the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is there has to be some management going on. All right. You have a business. This is now a business structure, which you still got to owe taxes, you got to pay fees. There's a whole lot of other things that go on, besides just you putting your face out there and, just being on the social media platforms. And I also do believe that people may be a little bit uh, naive, okay, when it comes to how do you sell yourself, if you will, market yourself in an industry where there is a lot of oversaturation. All right. There's so many people who are doing the same thing that you're going to be doing. Like me and you are in the same industry, in the same lane, if you will. However, our clientele are different. So my clientele are veterans, or, women who are transitioning out of a very long career. Those that are already well accomplished and they are looking and seeking for a different way to have impact and influence, which, sometimes when you're in those conformity spaces, highly conforming spaces, you are hidden. You are told, here is the here is the box. We don't want you to come out of the box. And so it's hard for you to understand how personal branding can be a tool. And I also believe you have to have an ecosystem. Okay. Personal branding this is an ecosystem. It is not a one-dimensional type of thing. You talk about social media, you also have in-persons networking events that you have to go to, so that way you could reinforce your brand. Because people that see you on the social medias, but Ayisha, like as well as I do, we can meet somebody on social media and then get in person. I'm like, who's this person? Oh, like, oh no, you connected to me.
Right.
Yeah. So so there's so many pieces that sometimes we don't understand or know of. So how do you educate? Okay, because I'm very interested in how you educate your clients or the people that you are partnering with when they start out with you.
So when it comes to how do I educate them, it just all depends on where they are and what they're trying to do. I really try to, because there's so much, especially in the wider world of marketing, and then a little bit more narrow when you talk about branding. It's so much that I really have to understand what your goal is, right?
Yeah.
And based on that, then I'm going to share my insight, and we're going to walk through together, building this journey. Because the journey could be different for everyone, and based on what they're trying to achieve. So you mentioned that, yeah, it doesn't stop with social media. The buck doesn't stop there. It's an overall experience. So your brand experience shows up not only in your presence in in-person events, but it even shows up in your relationships. How you make people feel, right?
Oh, here we go. Yes.
And see that as much as I know the value of that and I love that, but that's not necessarily my focus point. Like my area of expertise, I'm not going to train you on I don't train on how you should make people feel. Does that make sense? That's just,
yes.
That would be something that I would give to someone else to do.
Yeah.
Because that's a big gamut. Because when you go into transformation and really like coaching someone on how they should show up, presence, being in tune and aware of practicing emotional intelligence, that's a whole nother gamut.
It is a whole nother beast, Queen.
Yeah. And it's great stuff, because we all have to go through it, especially if we're going to position ourselves as experts or strategists in branding in general. So I had to go through it. But for me, my sweet spot when it comes to supporting others is really educating them on the strategy. What's the bigger picture? So we need to start at year 10 and work our way down. Then I can help with that, building out the map, the structures, what's in place, what platforms are you using, what platforms work best for you based on who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to do, and then your overall systems, right? Do you have a lead magnet? If you have a lead magnet, like, are you automating, are you creating email workflows around? If you have a book, do you in place? Do you need help setting up programs, an evergreen class? So I handle that area of it. But in general, I would hope that as someone is on this journey of building their professional brand, they are aware that it's not just how you show up on social media, because some people are really, really good with being in front of the camera and engaging their audience. They are, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, when you see them in person, the presence it's just not there.
Yeah.
But what I know for me, what's most valuable, excuse me, to me is I want people to remember how I made them feel
Mm-hmm.
based on making sure that the energy that I bring into a room in person is
Yeah.
authentic, right? And impactful.
Yeah.
So I really took time to, and it's not coming from a fake place because my mother was the same way. But that's my focus, like in person, to create an experience from A to Z.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm of the same mindset because I feel like there is this gap, all right, where you have something that you know is going to solve this problem, but because you're not understanding of how you're showing up in these spaces, you can lose that opportunity instantaneously, right? It's a no like trust factor, right? Like that's part of the business of and people like having experiences, positive and memorable experiences, because if you can be on top of mind with whatever you're doing, usually that's when people get you the referrals. They ask you to come in. They'll, send you, work or projects that are in your space. And so an experience is really all that, and I speak to the appearance, behaviors, communications, and your digital presence, like mastering these four areas. Um, so that way when the time comes, you already ready. You're not like trying to wing it and trying to figure these things out. All right. And I'm not embarrassed to say how old I am or anything. Like I'm 53 years old. I'll be 54 in a couple of months. I don't have a long runway. All right. So in when I say that is the span of time to get to the goal that I am trying to achieve in this next act, in this next chapter. So it has to be intentional, right? Deliberate, precision. That's what I share with the people that I'm working with is we're being very precise. We're being very intentional about where we're going, who we're talking to, who's in the room, the decision makers. What are you saying? How are you behaving? It has to make sense. It has to
Mhm.
be in alignment, so but it has to be you. I need you to come in because you're one of one.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be authentic.
Yeah.
So from what you're sharing, it sounds a lot of like presence.
It is. So I spend a lot of time in the executive presence and visibility
Mhm.
space, but using personal branding tools, so that way someone can see how these all can work together.
Mhm.
And so, and that's what I love about entrepreneurship. Like, I absolutely love that you could take your experiences, leverage them with the business to create something that is unique but needed, right? And you like specialize and you niche on down, so that way people are like, yeah, I know someone who does that, so like, yeah, we need, just talk to her or talk to him. um so you've been doing this for quite some time. You said 2017
Yeah.
or so. Okay. And so in this span of time that you've done this work, what are some of the I would say the more innovative ideas, or some of the things that you didn't realize back when you started that are now becoming the thing? Okay. Because I know industries change and kind of they evolve. So what have you noticed, if
As
anything?
mhm. As far as like just overall like innovation and advancement with technology, well, I'll touch on two things. I think externally, when it comes to one of the things that I realized, we've been hearing about. well, now everything is AI. We're surrounded by AI. But prior to this, a
Surrounded.
year ago, 2 years ago, we heard about it. And I know for me, I just wasn't quite sure what that meant and how that would work for me with my background starting in design, brand creative, brand design. And what I've learned is as technology advances, and so, pretty much everybody now is using AI to in some aspect. It's still based on my expertise, using the tool to enhance, not replace. So
Let's
from
talk
a
about that.
yeah, so for example, like from a design standpoint, um, I know, well, not only a design, but just an overall branding standpoint. AI should be used or can be used to help uh, stimulate the ideas, the concepts, give you a roadmap, maybe an outline, help you build a foundation. But it's really important, especially if you are positioning yourself as an expert or a public figure, a thought leader, to then still make sure that you're incorporating those that essence of you, what you bring to the table, your perspective, your insight, right? From a messaging standpoint. And then from a design standpoint, I do get that AI is very, very convenient. And
Mm-hmm.
as you play with it more, it understands you more. But when it comes to branding, how consistent can you really get it? You know, if you're asking AI to completely create a flyer for you, and if consistency is an important element of your brand, look at Chick-fil-A. They're extremely consistent. You know the brand, you know the experience, you know what you're gonna get. If
Oh
that's
yeah.
what you're yeah, if that's what you're looking for in your brand, you have to be really mindful of how much you're relying on AI, because that consistency will waver. Does that make sense what I'm saying from a
Yeah, it
design
does.
standpoint?
It does. It really does because I have seen people use AI to do all of the work, like everything, all their ideas, all of their documents, and you could tell it's AI-ish, right? Like I don't see the human in the AI at all. And so for me, like I don't want to work with someone who relies on AI to do everything for them, all right? Because then I'd be like, well, what's your thoughts? What are you what experiences or skills or expertise do you have? So I love the word enhance, instead of just replacing everything with it, you're just enhancing your ideas. It's a trigger, right? I call it like a tickler. So I have an idea. I have a thought. I put it in, but it has to be massaged, right? It can't,
Mhm.
you have to tweak it. You have to put your flavor in there. And we were talking about spice earlier, like we got to put your season on top of that, where it's your voice. It's your word. It's how you are communicating to your audience and how they receive information, because they can tell. They can tell when it's not you. They can tell.
Yeah, I had an experience where I met someone, and the interactions we had, whether it was via the phone or in person, were great. But then the email interactions just seemed so off because
Uh,
the person apparently uses AI, and it was just like a completely different person. And it really threw it off for me because this was someone I'm looking to partner with, to work with. But I'm like, I don't even understand what you're trying to say. Like, what you saying? Because it was so completely different. So again, I do understand it helps with productivity, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're juggling many hats. I get
yeah,
it. Like we all use it, but definitely, as you mentioned, add your own special sauce, your own little bit of seasoning. Don't let, who you are get lost in translation when it comes to email communications and stuff like that. Because
yeah,
that can be a turn off, you know what I mean, for someone who's like, yeah, you were cool in person, but I don't know what this is.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that we're seeing a lot more of that now than we ever had because people are using it out of convenience.
Yeah.
I can just plug something in here and I get my answer and I just give it to you. Um, so, that's something. to be very careful of. And I think you may have had another innovation or technology example.
Yeah, so I was more so going to speak on just what I've learned over the years, just being in business, like a lesson for me. And we touched on, you mentioned about just being passionate and jumping into something because of passion. And I love the fact that you mentioned that a part of what you do and how you show up to support others is really making sure that they're being intentional. And what I got from that is being very strategic in your moves and the rooms that you're in. Because I know one thing for me, which I had to shift, and you mentioned mindset, like that's the first quarter of the book too, is I had
Mm-hmm.
to really work on my mindset.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
yeah, because coming into this, it was just like I was just so grateful for any opportunity.
Oh,
So it was just like, hey, I'm right here, pick me what you need. Okay, yeah, I can do that too. I got you. Spreading myself thin, right?
oh, yes, yes, right.
And I learned the hard way that, listen, like if you don't really like, if you're not one very clear on how you want to show up, they won't be clear on who you are and what you have to offer. You know,
Yes,
if you're not
agreed.
strategic about what you're trying to achieve, how much do I need to achieve on a quarterly basis? How much do I need in a bank account every month to pay my bills if I'm doing this 100%? And it's,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm gonna do it for this because I think that's good enough, And I'm not saying that to tease. I'm saying that because I've been through it, and
Well,
I suffered through it.
I think it's a lot of us have been through that journey. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
then because of this passion and because you have this energy about like, let me just do this. Oh my goodness, I'm doing it. And then
Right.
when people just say, oh yeah, we want you to come and do that and do this. And I was finding myself in the wrong rooms. I was like, I am not supposed to be here. Like I started getting the signals. I am not supposed to be here. I don't want to have these conversations. I don't want to do this type of work. And so
Mhm.
I had to learn like the first year and a half, maybe 2 years. I was just kind of going through this and I had to write things down. I had to be like, okay, what am I doing in this first quarter that is going to give me the results that I'm looking for in the second quarter, right? Like being this prep work to the quarters and making sure they're all in alignment with what I say I'm doing. All right. I say I am in the executive presence space. You ain't gonna see me over in finances. Okay, you're just not gonna see me over there because I have no. Why am I over there?
Right.
So I think that is part of the journey, and it's nothing to be shameful or embarrassed about. It's just part of it. It's like you have to go through this to understand. And then when like yeah, that's not for me. I don't no, or no thank you, right? I have someone else who can do the work for you.
Exactly. Refer it out and get to the place. For me, that mindset shift was trusting myself enough to
Yeah.
know that, I that I was worth the risk and that I ultimately would be in the right spaces to be able to achieve the goals. Because sometimes we're
Yeah.
like, well, we just need this right now because BGE don't care about what I'm trying to do.
No, BGE don't care because listen, BGE, if you listening into this conversation, y'all hurting us. Okay. We got
Okay.
that. You heard us and these gas prices. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I might have to go down to do they have the discount gas prices or any places around here? Because I was just saying I had to reroute. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on. But you're right. When you're starting a business and the revenue is not streaming in right away, you can start getting yourself into panic mode or
Yeah.
feeling like I shouldn't have started this. I didn't know, I gotten in way over my head. But you have to have a process and you have to trust the process. And you have to be coachable. You have to learn. You have to be able to switch and pivot at times, where you weren't thinking about it. So it is a different mindset shift. And it's also and I talk about wellness because wellness, when you talked about the man who died unexpectedly, you know it touches home. It really does, because an entrepreneur, we can be going hard in the paint. All right.
Mhm.
We can, like you said, spread ourselves so thin out here, not realizing that we all often are putting ourselves on the back burner, right? And so bringing that to the forefront of, why you started the business, because you wanted to spend more time with your children, right? You want to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility. Well, we got to be taking care of ourselves too.
Yes, yes, that's so important, and it's so easily lost sometimes as an entrepreneur because there's no if you don't set boundaries in place, it's very easy to just keep going. Like I was at a point where people were like, "Happy Friday." I'm like, "What's so happy about Friday?" Like I'm working Saturday and Sunday too. Like, what you mean? You know what I mean? I'm going to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, getting up at 5 o'clock, doing something. So you're right. Self-care is extreme. We have to take care of ourselves. And I am still learning that when it comes to this world of entrepreneurship. Because sometimes you feel like if you stop hustling 1 minute, then you may lose out on the opportunity. But again, it comes back to trust. I trust that, everything will work out according to the will that he has for me, and
That's
everything
right.
will align in the right time, even if
Yeah.
I decided I need to take 2 weeks and go home to Jamaica.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, and take me with you, okay?
Right.
Because listen, when I go to Jamaica, people always ask me, they start speaking to me in patois. I'm like, I am not Jamaican.
We can go together. We could go
Yeah, yeah,
together.
I know. I was
We'll
like,
be
this
Jamaican
is,
for that trip.
I was there for 3 months because when I was in the military, I was there, and I'll put in air quotes, deployed, but on a humanitarian. And I was living on the Jamaican Defense Camp in Monique. And so I had braids in my hair, the single braids. And man, they were just, the soldiers there, they were just crazy. Like, take me home, take me back to America. I want to be. And they were speaking in patois. And I was, because I can understand some of the language, and because it's English, a little slang and so forth. And so I was tracking, but I was like, I am not Jamaican, y'all. But I love the culture. I love the food. I love the music. I just love the vibe. We've been there like 4 or 5 times since. So, but yeah, it is different when you're in the entrepreneur space, and learning all this as you go can be a steep learning curve. But I would always, recommend people to look into doing the research behind what they're trying to get into, getting to know a little bit about what it is that entrepreneurship really looks like, understanding that there's monies that are involved, because that was one of the things that I got quickly introduced to, was all the fees and the registration and then the networking events. And then, it was just like, uh, where's all my money going? So
I'm telling you. I'm
it's
telling you, but
so go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I know for me, now I'm at a point where it's like I know what I'm trying to achieve, and you just have to invest in the brand. If you're the brand, that means investing in you. If the brand is a product, investing to make sure that you have the right people, the right manufacturers, whatever the case may be. But it is not it is not for the weak at heart, and it's very expensive, but you really just have to tune into that bigger picture and stay committed to it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Listen, y'all, I know Chevy's been hanging out with us tonight, but we're almost to the top of the hour. And we have talked a lot of things in the conversation. I absolutely love this conversation. We probably could go for another hour or so. But I know that it is Sunday night. We got these children and we got these chores, whatever. I know I got a lot going on still until I get to bed. So, you know, as we were talking through this, and I was really, you know, so interested in your book. If you could please show the audience your book, and
Sure.
then tell us a little bit about it and kind of how that all became to be?
Sure. So this is my book. It's called Expert Status. Right. It's a power playbook for women who are done playing small and ready to start getting paid for their expertise. And it came about because I know for me, this journey wasn't easy. It took me a long time because I got in the way. I was so much in the way. Yep. Um, and it started with mindset, really like conquering. We all deal with imposter syndrome, and I think that's something that will always show up. It will never completely go away. It may just show up in different ways as we grow, but it talks about really like owning who you are, really standing confidently in your value. If you are a consultant or a creative or coach and you're even still on the fence of how do I price, we break down strategies on how to make sure you're positioning and pricing yourself so that people understand your value, your audience understands your value. And then with a background in branding and marketing, it's a lot of frameworks and strategies that we incorporate so that you're not just learning or embracing the concept of, okay, I am an expert, but you're living in it and you are exposed to the various tools and systems that you need to really stand in it 100%. And that's what expert status is all about.
And listen, y'all better go get the book. I'm going to order my book. Okay, because I need the book too, because this is all learning moments. I think that we all should, invest in, things that we can read and refer to. And so that way it keeps us going, because motivation ain't always going to get you there, y'all. Okay, so you need information and be well armed with some tools that you can use in your journey. So where is it being sold at?
Sure. So it's on Amazon if you if you search expert status, but also you can get it at expertstatusplaybook.com. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put it in here. Expert status
playbook.com.
Okay, so y'all either on Amazon or you can find it at expertstatusplaybook.com. All right. And then if you get the book and you're reading the book, go to Ayisha's pages. Okay, so she can be found where, Ayisha? I know you got a lot going on. So
I would love to connect with you if you do get the book, or if you enjoy the conversation that we had today. Share feedback, and I can be found on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is I am Ayisha O on Instagram. And I just love to hear from you, love to connect with you.
Yes. Okay, y'all. So connect. And I have a couple more questions and then we will be out of here, y'all. Okay. So if you haven't tuned in, tune in now before we leave. If you come back, of course, you're going to put in #replay and let us know what you've gotten away from the conversation so far. So what else haven't you shared that you would like to share before we leave for tonight? So anything, it could be whatever, any more advice, tools, gems, whatnot.
I think the biggest takeaway is just really be true to yourself. That was a tough lesson for me, so stand confidently in that. If you're local to the DMV area, I would love to connect. There are tons of upcoming events that we will be doing around the expert status concept and the expert status workbook that will be coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. And any other tips, I will leave you with a quote that means a lot to me. And that quote is, "She needed a hero, so she became one." So yeah, we all have something to share with the world. Some of us are good where we're ready and you're doing the thing. And if that's you, keep doing the thing. And if you're the type that you're like, I have something, but I'm just not quite sure how to get started, or I'm not quite sure what exact steps that I need to take, or is someone really going to receive it? Of course, I'd say reach out to me, but ultimately the bottom line is this. There's someone out there who needs to hear from you. There's someone out there who will have an aha moment the moment you decide to show up and share your story. So
Mm.
ignore the negative self-talk. Ignore the questions of, oh, well, what if, people, want to have negative things to say. Even if it's 10 negative things and 2 positive things, those 2 positive things could be life changers for someone. So if you know you have that mentality where you have something to give or someone to serve, just do it, sis, because it's so much out here for everyone, and we
It
need to hear
sure
from you.
is. Listen, you done said a whole word. It is Sunday, y'all. So if you didn't go to church today, you got a little church up this moment, right? And I felt every bit of that. I heard and I received it because it's true. There's enough for us to eat at these tables out here. All right, but there's still not enough of us who are coming out. Some of us are still in hiding, and we know we have a gift and we know we need to share it with the world. So let's stop playing around, all right? And let's just do it, all right? And you have people like ourselves that are out here to support you in that journey, however, or we got a plethora of a network of community people. So we would love to see you out here shining, okay? And most importantly, slaying it, okay? Because that's what we do. um, and so my last question for you is, a deep type of question. I asked every one of my guests this. And so on your 80th birthday party, if God gives you those number of years, what would you want your family and friends to say about you? Because I know, like, I'm doing some things very intentionally to hear that. Um, so I think a lot of times we don't really think too deep into it, but I want us to start to think about it a little bit more further, because what we're doing is we're building legacy. And so, this is something for our children, our children's children. They will always see us, as these change makers, influencers, trailblazers, if you will. And give them that idea that if we did it, they can do it too. But what would you want your family and friends to say about you?
That's a good question. And I watched the episodes and I got the question, but it's still like, it's so much to say. Okay. So to answer that question, I feel like I would want them to continue saying what they have shared with me thus far. And what that is that, I was a positive light in the room. I would like for them to say that in my moments of uncertainty or my moments where I second guess myself, Ayisha was always there to encourage me. She was a great accountability partner for
Mm.
me. I want my children to I want my children to be able to say, not only did my mom expose me to the world by traveling and expose me to the world of independence and entrepreneurship by watching her, but she also taught me the tools. So they too have their own business.
Oh,
Check out Yummy Cake Bar.
that's right.
But
That's right. I did see that. Yes.
yeah, but most importantly, I think too, because I lost my mom at such a young age.
Mm.
For me, it's all about just creating memories and making sure that I'm positioning them. I'm leaving them in good hands, even if it's not my hands. So for my daughter, it's really standing confidently in her worth. I want her and my son to be independent and respectful, human beings. That's the bottom line. When
Yeah.
it comes to friends and family, people who just may have, had a conversation or, known me, I just want them to say she was a great spirit. She, I remember this conversation we had. I remember maybe this one time where I was feeling low and she really encouraged me to start this business or, to do this thing I was scared of doing. And I'll, be grateful for that. I don't need flowers. I don't mean that, but I just want to know that I made an impact, in someone's
Mm.
life. I made a difference.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful thing. And I could say you were the light in the room, Queen. Okay. So you said you were the light. I was like, yeah, she's the light. So, I just know that great things are always going to be coming your way. I want to say thank you for being a guest on the Slate to Success Talk Show. And, if there's anything that you need or any encouragement or support, look, I'll be your light too. All right. So, sometimes the light has to have another light, because there are days that we are not feeling up to ourselves all the time. Right. And so I just thank you. I thank Chevy for being here live with us tonight on the show. And for those that come back for the replay, like I said earlier, put in hashtag replay. Let us know your thoughts. Share, 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 share. Okay. And like, and make sure that you subscribe to the Slate to Success YouTube channel. And y'all, we will be back here, okay, next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here back on the show, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube with another SLAYMAZING guest. So please give our guest a round of applause for being here with us tonight. And as we know, it is keep on slaying, y'all, until you can't slay no more. And we will see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ayisha.